Hey y'all, Moses here. Today we're going to be talking about the weapons and equipment in PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. Some of the most frequent questions I get are in relation to how the weapons and equipment function. So the purpose of this video is to give a brief overview of the current state of weapon balance, give my personal recommendations, and to answer some of the most common questions. We'll be going through mostly everything, so I won't be going into absolute specifics. If you'd like to see this guide expanded, leave a comment down below and let me know what you'd like to see next. So with that said, let's get started. 1. Assault rifles. The most common question I get is about my favorite AR. I can tell you right now, it's the M4. Why it's my favorite isn't as complex as you might think. Before I tell you why I prefer the M4, let's learn a bit about the various rifles. All 5.56 rifles do 41 damage to unarmored targets. This includes the M4, SCAR, and M16. The M16 is a good all-around weapon, but doesn't perform as predictably as the SCAR or M4 when you compare burst mode to full auto. The M16 benefits from the highest bullet velocity of any AR at 900 meters a second, whereas the SCAR and M4 come in slightly slower at around 875 meters per second average. The M16 spawns at the highest rate of all the 5.56 rifles, so it's relatively easy to find and makes for a great early game weapon. The SCAR-L is a reliable performer and benefits from a grip attachment slot, something the M16 doesn't have. The SCAR has a full auto mode and performs very well when standing and firing. This is something I noticed that it does better than the other 5.56 rifles. This might have something to do with the fact its standing spread value is the lowest. This brings us to the M4. The M4 has a grip slot as well as the ability to take a tactical stock. The tactical stock is frequently scrutinized because I don't think many people fully understand what it does or what it's supposed to do. Right now, the tac stock functions as it should. Its primary purpose is to reduce weapon sway and to allow a faster recoil recovery. This means the weapon will recover faster between bursts of fire. This makes the M4 a formidable weapon at basically any range. In my experience, it can produce more accurate bursts than the SCAR can, with the M16 close behind. The reality is that you won't need more than 6 shots to kill even the most heavily armored target. All 5.56 rifles are very easily capable of delivering 5 accurate shots in the hands of a skilled player. My preference goes to the M4 because it looks the best. Believe me, I've spent considerable time with each rifle, and I prefer the M4 because it has a full auto mode, which is my preference, and that it looks cooler than the SCAR. You can have success with all of the 5.56 rifles if you can hit your shots. That brings us now to the AK-47, which is the least reliable weapon in the game in its current state. The AK does 48 damage per shot, which is considerably more than its 5.56 counterparts. The trade you have to make for the increased damage is the heavy recoil. The AK has the highest first shot recoil of any other rifle, which means if you're aiming down your sights, your target will be difficult to track beyond medium range. The AK also suffers from slow bullet speed at 715 meters a second, which is the slowest of all the other rifles by a significant margin. The AK does have a full auto mode, but unless the target is right in front of you, the most you should be firing is 5 bullets per burst. I would also suggest crouching while firing to help alleviate the recoil. The AK is not completely useless, and I've used it with some success, but the other ARs perform so much better that keeping it just doesn't make any sense right now. I suppose I should mention the Groza and the new AUG 03 here. The Groza is a straight-up beast. It has very low recoil with a high rate of fire, a relatively low effective range due to spread mechanics, and does the same amount of damage as the AK. Up close, this thing is unstoppable. You can only attach a silencer, sight, and extended mag to the Groza. I haven't spent a lot of time with the AUG, but it can take all of the weapon attachments and appears to be nearly as strong as the Groza from a handling standpoint, and may have better long-range capabilities. For now, I can't give a verdict on which is better. Attachments. Now that we've talked about ARs, the next common question is how to fit them. Let's go through the common stuff really quick. Red dots versus hollow sights. The choice between sights is simply personal preference. The red dot provides the most field of view when aiming, but the hollow has a more engaging reticle and seems to promote more precise fire. Often, I'll prefer the red dot for its simplicity and increased vision. There is no wrong choice here, as both sights provide the same amount of zoom and function the same way. Angled grip versus vertical grip. This is the most hotly debated topic outside of which AR is best. Essentially, the angled grip reduces side-to-side recoil by 20%, slightly increases the speed in which you aim down your sights, and reduces the recoil pattern, something we don't fully understand in the current state of the game, so let's just focus on the recoil reduction and ADS time. The vertical grip reduces vertical recoil by 15% and reduces recoil pattern. The tooltip also says that it increases ADS speed, but stats dumps show that the angled grip is the only item that actually reflects that value. Again, this comes down to personal preference. ADS and recoil pattern aside, what you're looking at here is horizontal or vertical recoil reduction. If you have an easier time controlling your mouse from left to right than you do up or down, then the vertical grip is the best choice. Most players have an easier time with controlling vertical recoil, so the angled grip becomes the better choice by default. I highly recommend you just treat this one as personal preference as well. Don't go searching for one specific attribute that makes one better than the other. Spend time with both and see which one you like better. Compensator versus silencer. This one is a bit tougher, as both provide essentially excellent benefits. The suppressor is my preference because the reduced sound output makes it difficult for your target to locate you quickly and makes it hard for other players nearby to come and find you when they hear shots. This is a massive benefit that serves you well from the beginning of a game all the way to the end. The compensator provides heavily reduced recoil, and when combined with a fully kitted M4 or SCAR, can make full auto engagements very simple. If I was in a 1v1 situation to win a game, I would rather have a compensator than a suppressor, but the full game benefit of the suppressor is much greater than that of the compensator. Again, personal preference, but I think the suppressor takes the objective cake in this argument. As an aside, the flash hider provides small recoil benefits and eliminates weapon flash, which is also a big benefit, especially in raid maps when audio information is already being muddied by the weather effects. Scopes. This section will be looking forward to the 1.0 patch, so I'll break it down quickly for those who haven't played on the test realm. The 2X isn't changing much in 1.0, and still faces challenges as it provides little utility over a red dot or hollow sight. It also doesn't function very well for long-distance engagements. I don't mind pairing it with the SKS or Mini in a pinch, but I quickly discard it when I find a better optic. The 4x scope will have a unique reticle depending on the weapon it's attached to. The Kar98 and SKS will get a cross reticle. The Mini M4, SCAR, and M16 will retain the chevron-style reticle, even though it's slightly visually changed, where the AK will be getting a unique one that's specific to that rifle. This is a nice change, as I believe mastering the chevron sight on the 4x scope has proven difficult depending on the different weapons it was attached to. The 8X is going to continue being the most powerful scope found in the map, and in the 1.0 patch it will have variable zoom. SMGs. This is going to be a very short section. The UMP is still the best SMG in the game. It has a base damage of 35, it's reliable, has great recoil, and 9mm is a lightweight and easy to find ammo type. Some argument could be made for the Vector, but the UMP outdoes it in almost every way aside from raw damage. The Vector would be good if its deviation and horizontal recoil wasn't so crazy. All the arguments for the AR attachments apply to the UMP as well. I prefer the compensator for the UMP as it isn't very loud to begin with, but the suppressor is great too. The Uzi is a good early game weapon, but from a pure best standpoint, the UMP is still king, and that looks like it's not going to change anytime soon. Sniper rifles. The Kar98 is the best world spawn bolt action sniper rifle. It will drop players with a level 1 and level 2 helmet if you can hit them in the head, and takes good attachments like the bullet loops, which are slightly better than the cheek pad in my opinion. If you can master the Kar98, you'll be a formidable force in any game mode. In solo, the Kar98 is by far the best weapon choice. The SKS is the original DMR, or Designated Marksman Rifle. With the Mini being introduced, it has sadly fallen to the third best sniper rifle, in my opinion. But it does 58 damage, has heavy recoil, and could require up to 4 shots to kill a player depending on how your shots land. It also has a deceptively slow bullet at 800 meters per second. It requires many attachments to be passable, and SR attachments spawn at the rarest rate. It has the unique ability to take a foregrip attachment, which can help with the recoil, but a cheek pad and compensator are essentially required for it to be anywhere near reliable. The Mini 14 is the latest DMR added to the game. It does 44 damage, which is slightly more than the other 5.56 rifles, has low recoil and a very high effective range with the fastest bullet speed in the game at 990 meters a second. The Mini takes all the same attachments an SKS does, but does not have a foregrip slot. The one downside to the Mini is that the bullet speed is so fast. Leading targets like you would with any other rifle will result in many missed shots. You have to train yourself to lead significantly less, which can be challenging. Regardless, the Mini only takes 1 or 2 more shots to kill a level 3 armored target over the SKS. Considering its larger magazine, easier handling, and long distance accuracy, the Mini becomes my go-to in duos and squads, and I'll only replace it with the Kar 98 in solos. For the crate weapons, the M24 is an upgraded Kar 98 which can take an extended mag, muzzle, and cheek pad. It does more damage and shoots faster. The M24 is my favorite crate sniper because it just sounds awesome, handles great, and looks cool. It doesn't one-shot a level 3 helmet, but unless the enemy has 100% health, they might die regardless. The AWM is the best weapon in the game. It has the highest single-shot damage, an extremely fast bullet velocity, and the ability to one-shot kill anyone regardless of helmet. This thing gives you a trump card in almost any situation if you can aim. The Mark 18 is essentially a buffed SKS. It takes an extended mag, has a muzzle attachment, and it can take a cheek pad as well. The Mark 18 has increased bullet velocity and bullet damage over the SKS, and the recoil seems to be a bit easier to control as well. Overall, the Mark 18 is a great gun and kind of feels like what I wish the SKS would be. Ultimately, I think they needed to have an upgrade path from the SKS, and the Mark 18 fits in nicely. LMGs. By the time 1.0 rolls around, there will still only be 2 LMGs in the game. The M249 is a beastly crate weapon that can destroy a vehicle in seconds. It has 100 rounds of 5.56 in the magazine and can only take a sight as an attachment. It's dangerous up close, and it's terrifying to be on the receiving end of its fire. There's a deployable bipod that only functions when you're prone, but reduces the weapon recoil to nearly nothing. Shotguns. Shotguns are excellent close-range weapons, and are very powerful when it comes to clearing out houses or in the early game when targets have no armor. The S12K might seem like a good option considering it's a auto shotgun, and in extreme close quarters, it's actually pretty good. It can take all the same attachments that the M16 can, so you can run around with a suppressed shotgun with a 4X if you want. However, the S12K has the lowest overall damage in its class, and is extremely inaccurate beyond close range or when moving. The 6.86 double barrel is my preferred choice because aside from the fact that it only holds 2 rounds, it has the highest fire rate and its range is much better than the S12K. With a choke and bullet loops, this thing can be a house-clearing monster if you take your time to place your shots accurately. The pump shotgun is also decent if you can aim, but its fire rate makes for a punishing situation if you miss your first shot. By the time the animation finishes playing, enemies can easily counter and kill you if you're not lucky. So if I'm going to choose which is best, the 6.86 double barrel is the easy choice. The crossbow. The crossbow is one of the most powerful weapons in the game, but suffers from an extremely low effective range. The crossbow is the only other weapon aside from the AWM that can kill a player wearing a level 3 helmet if you land a headshot. The crossbow comes equipped with its own sight, which can be confusing, but with practice isn't too hard to use. You can also use any other sight on it if you'd rather not use the stock one. The crossbow also benefits from being nearly silent when fired, and can confuse and terrify enemies who have no idea where they're being attacked from. In a city like Razak, the crossbow is a force to be reckoned with. In my opinion, there is no better feeling than landing a clean crossbow headshot. Pistols. I frequently get asked which pistol is best, and realistically that's like asking which pair of shoes is the best. Ultimately, pistols serve their purpose in the early game, and realistically you'll probably do well with any of them, but they're just a vessel to get to the first shotgun or SMG or rifle that you can find. Pistol handling has improved in the 1.0 patch, and I wouldn't expect their place in the meta to change very much. Ultimately, if I were to pick a best pistol, I would say the P92 is the most easy to control and has the most ammo spawn with it most of the time. Otherwise, it's anyone's choice as to what they'd like to use. Even the revolver has its place from time to time. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. I know that weapons and gear in PUBG are situational and based on personal preference, but I hope what we covered in today's video was helpful in some way. If you'd like to see more content like this, or a more specific video covering individual weapons, leave a comment down below, and if you liked the video, be sure to hit that like button as well. Until next time, I'll see you out there.